And welcome back to my next video. Today we are in big luck, as you can see. We're going to meet David. Hi, David.
How's it going?
Good. And David's rolling work of art. That's the only way to describe it.
Thanks, Bob.
Is a rolling work of art. So David, I'm just, the first thing I notice when I pull it up is your beautiful, beautiful camper. So we got to learn about it.
Yeah, so the camper I built I finished it up early part of this year, and it took about 5 months to build. The main superstructure of it all is cedar fence pickets, believe it or not. It's not, I think one thing to think about, it's not only just a beautiful camper, but it's really lightweight, it's really functional, and it's got a lot of tech in it. So it's a very usable camper. It's not just looks.
Right. So when you made it, you didn't want to create a work of art. You wanted to create a home.
Exactly.
Which was also a work of art.
Correct.
And my goodness, you have succeeded. Now, are you full-time now on the road or trips or?
No, I'm not full-time. Primarily, I built this just for recreation for myself. However, I recognize that when I did it, some of the things I used to build this and the general layout might be beneficial to people who are full-time or part-time. So I thought that's where the applicability to reaching out to you was.
Yeah, very much so. People are going to be really stunned. And I know you have social media. If people want to learn about building the camper, can they find you?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube account. It's a little hard to find with a movie that came out, but it's Endgame, one word. But if you were to search Endgame truck camper, you would immediately see this video. So I've actually, depending on the timeliness of when this comes out, it's actually kind of exciting opportunity right now. I built another camper that was similar but different, and I have a whole build series. I have a whole build series for this camper. And then as we speak right here in April of 2021, I'm concurrently building another camper that will be very similar to that, so people can follow along with that build.
So I know right out there, because I know my audience pretty well, a whole bunch of them are thinking, wow, will he build me one? So will you build someone else one?
So I'll put it this way. This was primarily a hobby. Under special circumstances, I don't have any formal business establishment, but I could be open to conversation at some point in the future regarding building some. I will say though, this is not a weekend project. I have about 500 hours invested in this. This is a multi-month step process. It's really, it's a big undertaking. So,
yes. And people who we're used to China and buying stuff really, really cheap in China, and so we've established that as a bar of price.
Correct.
So you probably aren't going to sell this for a few $100s if you build one.
No, it would be tens of thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
And and one thing to put into perspective is, this is literally handmade. And if you were to watch the build series, in the latest one, I actually have a time lapse of every single thing I do. There's no mass production. I'm the only builder. The only things in this project that are of any mass production are the modular components that exist in there, like electrical systems and stuff like that.
I bet everywhere you stop, people come out of the woodwork to talk to you about it.
On my drive down here, I saw someone in a Jeep, hanging out, taking photographs, and
right.
And I can only speculate, but many times you'll drive down the street and I'll see somebody sitting right in my blind spot for 10 minutes, and I'm guessing they're probably looking at it. So it definitely catches the eye.
Right. And that's why you create art, and it really is art to my mind, that people will see it and enjoy it.
Correct.
And kind of want it.
So in terms of art, another thing that I think was valuable for me is, as the creator of this, when I built it, I initially conceptualized just building it for practicality. I think something we'll talk a little bit later, it has all the materials you could essentially buy at a home store. But as I built it, it really developed into having many of the things. This was a good part. My kids helped me on every step of this, so it was a good way to spend quality time with them and teach them new skills. But it also, was a therapy of sorts for me for building it.
Absolutely.
A way to expand, use my creativity, and develop my own skill sets, and perhaps most importantly, recognize the value of success and failure, and most importantly, maintaining a focus on getting something completed and having the confidence to do that.
going back to what you're saying, this is a great example of loving the journey. Every screw, every thought, well, how am I going to solve this? And then over that long period of time, and then finally end up with a work of art. It's all joy.
And you know, and Bob, that was absolutely the fundamental key thing that led to the success of this. I mean, I'll admit, I've done woodworking for the better half of 20 years. And commonly, I was always focusing on the end product. And, you know, I had successes and failures in that. But when I took on this project, this is not something I'm going to build in a weekend. And that's where I really had to slow down. And though I had some broader ideas and concepts about where I was going, it was just as important for me to acknowledge and recognize that I have to focus on the small, finite events of the day in that construction period that I'm doing at that moment. And I think kind of a final evolution of that, though, was this became therapy. I think there is something meditative. I think there's something to, you know, the Eastern thought around focusing, clearing your mind on one task and doing that. And, you know, I might sound a bit corny to some, but this project really brought that insight to me. And so this is so much more than just something I can camp in. This is art, it's creativity, and it's time with my kids, and it's a meditative experience.
Right. It's just joyous the whole way through.
I think so.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But I know there are a lot of our people out there who are watching and thinking, well, I'm not that skilled. I could never make a work of art. But I bet a lot of what you have in your videos will show them. If there's a lot of my people are not full time. They're at home. They have years. They can work on this.
Yeah.
So, but you show them the basic idea of how to build the structure, and they can make it simpler and just use plywood paneling.
So I do. I want to think about it two ways. My first caveat I want to throw in here is if somebody were to take on a structural project like this, I think one thing that's important to remember is, you know, it is structural, and there is a sense of, you know, it is important that if something is thrown together with that structure in mind. I mean, this is a 1,000-pound wooden box that could go down the freeway at 70 miles an hour. If it were not built soundly, it could hurt somebody.
Absolutely.
However, maybe, you know, you may say, you know, because I would argue this is not a beginner project, not to dissuade people from trying, but it's not all just about, hey, I want to build this camper. There is a lot of things that we'll talk about that can give people insights and ideas into things that they might be able to incorporate into their van build or into, you know, some other build that they're doing. So it's not just about the final journey of this, but I think you'll see there's a lot of innovative uses of materials and components. I mean, for example, this has off-grid AC, air conditioner. It has, you know, I've done a lot of things to improve the insulating value of this, and we could talk about those, and things that I don't think you regularly see. So if you were to go to my channel and watch that, you don't have to come with it just with the expectation I'm going to build something this sizable. It could be coming with the expectation that I will be building, you know, I could just use some small ideas and parts for that.
And you found that it was meditative and therapeutic.
100%.
It can be for our audience as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's an important way to look at it. We so often just look at skill sets like woodworking or metalworking or whatever it may be as just developing that final product. But I think there is something to be had for the creative and meditative element of the construction itself. And it could be something as small as a wallet, you know, a leather wallet, for example, you know, or as elaborate as a camper. And I think that's important.
And really, few of us do. We're such a hustle world. But if you can actually kind of take that attitude of meditative, therapeutic, and apply it to every element of your life will dramatically improve.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's interesting to me. I think back, I think we're all familiar with the idea of meditation, right? And I think many of us, including myself, didn't really understand what that meant. But I feel like there's sometimes a hidden wisdom into those larger philosophical ideas that it's hard for us to conceptualize until you experience yourself. So, you know, doing something like this and focusing in the moment, focusing on one select task, I see is really an example of that, and a realization that, you know, peoples of the past and peoples of other parts of the world are seeing the very same things that are applicable to our lives.
So if you folks would like to know more about getting in flow, then just do a Google search on scientific flow. And I think a prime example that a lot of people use is Michael Jordan. He disappeared when he was such an artist that he just disappeared and it became this so narrowly focused. Like, I think that's the flow we're looking for all in life, just to flow with the life we have for us. So look at that. So if any, there are a lot of people out there, I think will love to find your channel. Tell us again your channel.
It's Endgame, Endgame, one word. And like I said, because of that, I think it was a Marvel movie or something, you'll never find it if you search it. So search Endgame and then truck camper. And when you do that, the first video that'll come up was, as of right now, was my original camper. It'll be very obvious. You'll see the similarities. Click on that. There's my channel. And like I said, as of, I mean, I'll be building it for the next 5 or 6 months. I'm in the process of building another camper that will be very similar to this. You guys, and I'm trying to develop kind of a interactive experience, so to speak, to where, you know, I have lives every week, and I'm trying to do things to allow the viewers to be able to ask me questions, and I'm even encouraging a creative element for people to suggest ideas and other things like that.
Now, I've just decided to make a switch because I wanted four-wheel drive, and my two four-wheel drive vans are hard to come by, and
Yeah.
I don't want the fuss. And so I gave serious thought to buying a truck camper instead, and for a couple of reasons I chose not to. Why don't you tell us the thinking in why you chose a truck camper?
Well, I mean, it first started off with the very idea that you talked about is four-wheel drive. So my truck, it's an '01 Chevy Silverado. I've owned it for a number of years, and just like many people, I live in the desert, and I enjoy going off-road and exploring the desert. For what I do, this truck was totally sufficient, but four-wheel drive was a necessity along with the higher clearance.
Right.
And then kind of to your same thing, there was a point in time where I said, hey, I want a structure. I want a camper. I don't want to sleep in a tent every place I go. But I wanted to still maintain that mobility that I had with the truck. And, you know, like you said, a four-wheel drive van, they're expensive. They're hard to come by. To convert one would literally probably cost as much as I paid for that truck in the first place.
Right.
And most importantly, the truck is what I had. So I really began looking at the idea of truck campers. But as we know, most of them out there are very expensive and very heavy. So even though you could put it on a platform like a pickup truck that's four-wheel drive, you lose a lot of the, you know, the gas mileage and the mobility because of the weight. So that was really the genesis of the idea of me wanting to build the truck camper. I think when you look inside, the inside is very nice, and we all can look back and see a lot of people who spend an enormous amount of money and energy in building out vans. But another idea that kind of came to me was the idea that, you know, the powertrain, the truck in this case, is going to wear out, just like the powertrain in a van or a mobile home. The nice thing about a truck camper, and this one is built to universal dimensions, I could pull this off, put another truck under it, bolt it all down, 45 minutes. And so that really gave a far longer lifespan for the camper structure than it did beyond the truck. Plus that mobility of, and you know, having that four-wheel drive and having a whole variety of different platforms. You could put a diesel in there, a diesel truck, gas truck, so forth and so on.
The amazing flexibility.
Absolutely.
And longevity.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, because, and you know, that's one thing, and I'm not criticizing people, but I see like some of these very elaborate van builds, and, you know, and I mean, they're beautiful, and I look at them, I'm like, man, but at some point in time, that van is going to wear out. And there's, you know, there's a finite limit. Or if somebody crashes into you and disables it, you know, that all of that time spent for that building was done. Now, I'm not saying I could get in an accident with this and maybe the camper part may not be damaged, but there's probably a lot of scenarios where, you know, I probably could get hit in this truck and the camper would still be intact. So that was really my, you know, it almost started off as just kind of a practicality of what I had. But once I did it, it really made a lot of sense. If I can continue, I think there's, you know, two potential downsides that we have to consider.
Right.
One is there's not really a lot of good options for a pass-through, especially in this one. And for a lot of people, a pass-through being the ability to go from the cab of the vehicle to the actual living portion of the vehicle. And in truck campers, that's limited. I mean, there are some that have some slide windows, but it's not really a very practical option. And then number two, there's nothing stealth about this.
Absolutely not. So folks, we've got some really wonderful insight from David. I really appreciate your thoughts on a lot of this. It's so important that people hear this. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go ahead and inside and take a look around and see the details and the nitty gritty. And that'll be a separate video. So go make sure you go right now and watch that video when it comes out. And make sure that you go to David's channel and check it out. David, tell us your channel.
It's in-game, one word, and if you wanted to search it, just in-game truck camper, and the first thumbnail will come up. It'll be obvious.
And we'll put a link in the description box below. So thanks so much for watching this video, folks. If you got anything out of it, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you later.